Welcome to the Not Your Mama's Autism podcast, a podcast about being unapologetically human through the eyes of neurodivergent people and the communities that support them. I'm Lola. This season, we've been picked up by the Alive Podcast Network, a platform dedicated to amplifying Black voices. And in this season, we hope to deliver to you a rich mix of personal stories, as well as awesome guest content in a way that we hope really resonates with you. So, with that in mind, let's get started.
Today is a special and bittersweet day on the Not Your Mama's Autism podcast. This is our last family episode under this name on this side of 2026. And I could not imagine sunsetting this chapter to Not Your Mama's Autism without bringing family members in. Our story has been, yes, about autism through this multi-generational lens, starting from my brother's diagnosis in 1989 to the present day. And it's certainly a story about autism and disability, and will very much remain so. But there's more of an evolution in order, a move towards wholeness, towards healing, towards breaking generational cycles. So today, I'm joined by the hubs, Tosa, to reflect on this journey, to talk to you about what the journey has meant thus far and where we're heading to next. So put on your thinking cap, memory cap, all of the caps, and looking back, what do you think has been the most surprising? We launched this podcast in 2020, about 5 years ago, and believe it or not, the kids were still very much smaller kids. They're still elementary age, and now we got a teenager and a preteen, almost teenager on the horizon.
They were much shorter than us.
They were much shorter than us, and now one of them one of them has eclipsed me, and the other one's right on her way. So
Real?
what do you think has been the most interesting, surprising, what have you, lesson that you've learned from sharing our family story publicly?
Uh, it's the podcast has been 5 years.
Yeah,
It's probably
no.
top of that list.
I know.
But on a serious note, the reach. I remember early when we were looking at um, the data that shows where the podcast was being viewed and what have you, and it had I can't remember the number of countries, but it was like faraway places, like I think Mauritius was one or something. I'm
Yeah,
like, wait, what?
yeah.
Wait, what? Um,
Australia was one. I
us,
was like, who's
yeah,
listening to us in
like who's listening
Australia?
to this Nigerian woman in Texas talking about multi-generational autism all the way in Mauritius. But it just shows uh, the universality of the story. It shows that autism, especially its neurodivergence, uh, high medical needs, is not a respecter of geography. It's not a respecter of persons, race, color, religion, fill in every other class that we try to use to distinguish ourselves. It's just like you like to say, another way of being human.
Yeah,
And that other form of humanity is all over the world. It's all over the world. I remember some reach outs you got from those faraway places,
yeah,
just saying, not asking for anything, just saying thank you.
yeah,
Um, that through the podcast they feel seen. I think it was the person in Australia who said that, like, I feel seen or something. Um, so that was a surprise. Well, surprise is a strong word. I would say that was a bit of a, because I had a feeling uh, that the purpose for this was going to be far-reaching, and I probably did not think it would go past, places that we have affinity to, the U.S., Nigeria, maybe Ghana just because it's a neighbor, and that's it. uh, so that's one. I think the other thing uh, was the unlocking that happened as a result of being obedient to the podcast. Uh, Not just in our community, community of friends and chosen family that we walk alongside, a similar path has expanded. Uh, our sphere of influence, and not teaching folks what to do, but just living in our lives. What's the word you is this sentence you use? Unvarnished but true. I can't remember. I'm butchering it up. But living our lives transparently, and the spheres of influence that has opened up has been a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
Again, just more an indication that for a lot of folks in our community, it almost feels like there's some permission granted uh, to act like you went to the store and bought the life that the Lord has presented to you. So that that range has been a bit of a surprise. A good surprise. A very good surprise. And the the speaking engagements and everything else that followed from there. But the first two or three things I said, I think were the most. Yeah, you know me, I don't get surprised easily.
You
Or
definitely
since I
don't.
don't, I don't show it.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
the most interesting.
yeah,
You know, interesting. So.
yeah. The universality of the message, you're right. Even though we're this family that sits at this intersection of race and neurodivergence and disability and the immigrant experience and gender, when you take into account Alero and all this, it's we've literally had opportunities ranging from, as a result of this, like you said, people reaching out from all over both the country and the world, the speaking engagements, like ranging in diversity from like Washington, D.C. to like Colorado, like just
Mhm.
almost coast to coast. And just
To West Virginia.
West Virginia. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Having people reach out to me with West Virginia roots and Utah and Colorado and Wisconsin and just all over. But also realizing just a reminder, like to your point of Mauritius and Australia, and someone reached out to me in Canada, I remember in year 1 or 2. And she reached out and she goes, "Oh my gosh, you're the American version of me."
Hmm.
And sometimes when you think you're alone, particularly in your community, and then someone decides to actually share their story, and you realize, maybe I'm not so alone after all. And just the people we've been able to interview, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
self
Yeah.
self advocates, parent advocates, police officers, healthcare professionals,
Creators,
creators,
creatives, right?
Yeah, creatives, creators, just wow, just actors, actresses, former CEO of a Fortune 50 company. It's just what a range, and what we sit with such gratitude, because as we're taping
Mhm.
this, it's only a couple days after Thanksgiving. And even if it wasn't, just the level of gratitude and sitting down and sitting back and thinking through what just all that has taken place as a result, to just put one foot in front of the other and decide to do this podcast, the people we've met both on the pod and as a result of us broadcasting this pod, has just been an amazing experience.
Yeah, and for me as a listener, um, you always know, it's a bit cliche, the fullness and the richness and diversity of humanity. Uh, and we know the cliche quote, if you've met one person on the spectrum, you've met one person on the spectrum. But I think the range of going back to the folks who you interviewed and some who actually reached out uh, with sharing their story too, and you later interviewed them, the range of how they all have been uniquely impacted by, you know, your divergence, autism, disability, advocacy, whatever, and on. Even in that very, very, very small subset, the richness of the humanity, uh, from a listening perspective, it's a little bit awe-inspiring. Maybe that's the word. Like I'm thinking of the conversation with the CEO you referenced when he was talking about his brother, coming from what would have been the 1940s, 50s, or 60s. I'm probably aging him more than he actually is old. Uh, all the way to uh, the interview with Miss Texas with her sibling, who grew up similar, more in the 90s. And even under and of course, with Conley in the middle of that, and of course, with Alera, even under very different geographies and different timelines, obviously, there's a similar thread that, goes through the stories, but it almost feels like it's a similar thread with very different, what's the word I'm looking for?
Through lines.
Through lines, just kind of like branching out of one similar thread. It's fascinating. But it just reminds you, humanity is beautiful. It's complicated. It's rich. It's wide. It's
Yeah,
deep.
yeah.
Yeah.
You see the universality, you see the humanity, you also see the rich intersections and how they interplay as well.
Hmm.
And that back to that intersection of race and disability and neurodivergence, and how that plays out under different scenarios depending on the circumstance and what the consequences could look like.
Hmm.
And speaking to nonprofit founders, that literally the existence of these nonprofits are in part simply due to those rich intersections. Like,
Yeah.
both Color of Autism and Dominique Cares come to mind
Hmm.
when I think of that. And just how it ties nicely into wholeness.
Hmm.
And so much of advocacy is making sure that other parts of community, of society, sees another person's wholeness, sees the fullness of their humanity. And that's why
Yep.
we're moving to this unapologetically whole, which is not only the rebranding of the podcast, but also the name of my upcoming book. Yeah, launching June 2nd, 2026.
June 2nd.
Yeah.
Mark it down.
Mark it down, mark it down. Soon, hopefully, the book will be available for pre order, so we'll keep you posted. But just what additional moments at this point, because we're already starting to go down memory lane here, but what moments stand out to you when our family grew stronger together through this process?
I, for me, my early favorite easily is the enthusiasm felt like I had jumping in, um, in his recording. Cotton, well, actually still owes me my producer credits, making me an occasional producer.
Yes. The closing
But
credits
that
for
and
the educational producer. That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
that enthusiasm to jump into, especially during the time with COVID still
Yeah.
loose and rampant, to jump into doing something with and something for mommy, is that still
Yeah.
warms the
Yeah.
chambers of the heart. And even Alero in her little uh, her contribution and her sign off,
Yeah.
her voice. Um, so that will always, I don't think any moment will touch that. Um, I think the other moments that stand out where, and you can hear this when you listen to different episodes, you can almost tell the point where folks relax into the conversation
Mm.
and are very open about and transparent about their journey, their triumphs, their failings, their battles, struggles, fill in the blank, everything at the same time. Uh, I always, just again as a listener, almost listen for that and there. That person just sat in a safety of the space which you created in the conversation, which I think, uh, I know would be a foundational cornerstone of the evolution to unapologetically whole. Uh, because I think you create an environment where folks are able to understand that their story is their story, and the wholeness of their story is good as it is, uh, and where there's no uh, urge to try and add more or subtract from their story. I think leading by example in the way we have shared or you have shared our story is basically, it is,
Yeah.
and it is good enough.
Yeah.
So looking forward to hearing more of those moments in the next iteration where people sit in that safety and present to audiences what their wholeness, their version of wholeness is. I also love that it's not unapologetically complete. It's
Mm.
unapologetically whole. Whatever part we have crafted is whole and it is good.
And I love how you said it's not yet complete, because I really do believe that wholeness, the road to whole, is a marathon.
Absolutely.
And your journey's not complete until God calls you home.
That part, that
So
part.
so it's a constant, and wholeness looks one way at 8:36 p.m. on November 30th when we're taping this, and it will look another way. It will look
Hmm.
another way on January 1st, 2026,
Yeah.
perhaps. And
And
it's
it
an
will look a different way uh, with a 13-year-old, and it will look a different way with an 18-year-old,
yeah,
and it will look a different way, when we wake up and our knees pop.
yeah,
But it's being unapologetic about embracing it,
yeah. And
and
whole,
you get to define the it. So,
yes, and whole certainly does not mean perfect.
no,
It means exactly that. It means whole. It means learning to sit in the hurt, in the pain, as well as learning to sit in the joy. Because again, going back to breaking some of those generational cycles, it's sometimes sitting in joy can feel as hard as sitting in pain if you're not used to sitting in joy.
you might
So
know a person.
I might know a girl. I might know a woman. I might know a woman. I might know.
Uh,
I might. So that's a little hint into the book, but it's very, very true. So that's the wholeness of it. It's breaking those cycles. It's learning to sit in all that is you, the good parts, the bad parts, and everything in between.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, uh, it's a good transition. It's a whole transition.
Yeah.
Um, you're not looking for a perfect transition. Um, it feels more like a natural evolution that acknowledges all that has come before. Autism is going to always be a part of our lives. Advocacy will always be a part of our lives. Neurodivergence will always be a part of our lives, and that intersection that we sit in will morph into different forms, but it'll always be and to be determined. And the goal is to embrace wholly whatever the end comes after the end, over and over again, to
Yeah.
choose it.
Yeah. Continuity, growth, a deeper sense of whole.
Then
As we close this chapter, we have one more episode after this before we transition fully into Unapologetically Whole. But as we close this chapter, I want to thank every listener who has walked with us. Not Your Mama's Autism was born out of love, advocacy, and is a real desire to tell the truth about family life through this particular lens. Now we step boldly into Unapologetically Whole, carrying forward those lessons while expanding into new conversations about faith, about healing, about recognizing the lane you're in, redefining what success can now look like, and reimagining what it means to thrive. Thank you for being part of this journey.
journey continues.
So, son, here we are. It's actually hard to believe that we are sunsetting the Not Your Mama's Autism podcast, but it's more of a transition than a full, complete ending. And when we started this podcast, how old were you? Was how many years ago now? In 2020, we're about to hit upon 2026. Wow, you were 9? Because you're gonna be 15 next month. You were 9. You were 9. And now you are into this teenage lifestyle. Your sister's right behind you. And of course, for our listeners, who this may be one of their first times interacting with us, who you hear in the background is Alero. Alero. Chief Security Officer of Ollie Incorporated. So, with that in mind, as we reflect on the episodes on this podcast, I mean, we've touched upon a lot in this season of the podcast. I mean, when I mean this season of the podcast, I should say this era of the podcast because it's soon going to evolve. But we've had self advocates like you on the pod. We've had so many representations of the greater community from nonprofit founders to police officers to healthcare professionals to corporate inclusion as through the years. As you used to put it when you were younger, with your dad being an occasional producer. I'd like to ask you a couple questions, like looking back, thinking about our evolution as a family, thinking about the evolution of this podcast. What's one thing you wish people understood better about us?
I'd mainly just say that, and I get the podcast has shed a good light on this, but even though we may like have different like ways of doing things, we're we're also like equal, we're also like the same, you know? Like when when you see like doing like stuff in like public and something, like if Elena's having an episode or something like that, like it may not be your normal, but it's our normal. So yeah, I'd mainly just say like when you see that happening, like you gotta look at it from both sides.
Yeah, perspective is so important, and expanding the way you see things, hopefully, it is one of the goals of hopefully getting most people who have had the chance to listen to this podcast to better understand us a little bit better. And that's just one more layer. So thank you, fella. We've had quite the year this year. We started off this year with attending a movie premiere that we were featured in, going on some wonderful family travel experiences. We still have one more to go next month this year, and just collecting more family memories. We've also balanced it with huge transitions. I mean, you started high school, Alero started middle school. You got an award this year as you left 8th grade. You had so many new transitions, starting new in band, and so many, your extracurriculars kind of shifting as well, your focus shifting as well. So with all that in mind, high schooler, what's something you're proud of about this year that you've done yourself?
Mm, I guess just getting closer to God and just like handling these transitions because when I was going into middle school, I was honestly a bit scared because it's so different from elementary, but going into high school, I wasn't nearly as scared. I'm sure even though this is the school that I typically don't jump into, I still made a lot of friends pretty quickly. And I guess I'm just proud of myself that I like handled that really well.
And we are really proud of you too, because that's a big deal. It's hard to transition into something as major as high school. So I think you've done it with some serious grace. You've done it pretty well. So kudos to you. And you're welcome, baby. You're welcome. If you could teach the world a lesson about autism, neurodivergence, what would it be?
I guess it's just like just because someone has like autism or like ADHD or something doesn't mean they're stupid. Because I've seen like SPED or that kind of be used as a synonym for stupidity. And it's like there's types of people like aren't stupid. Like just because they may have different like intellectual capabilities than you do doesn't mean that they're like stupid or something. And like when you like see them in like public, like don't like look down on them. Still remember that like they're human too. They have feelings too. Those feelings too. They just can't express it as well as you can. In general, I'd say just intellectually disabled people aren't like dumb or stupid. They're still people and they still have feelings that we should respect.
Absolutely. Absolutely, son. Our family, for those who may just be tuning into this podcast, our family has rich representation in the neurodivergent and disabled, intellectually disabled communities. And we represent the spectrum. And you hear some of that spectrum in the background with also fella sister, my 12-year-old daughter, Alero. Alero, say hi. And this is us. We are unapologetically human, which ties really nicely into the next phase of our family's journey and why we want to rebrand the podcast. Autism advocacy will always be an important part of who we are, an integral part of who we are, but it's part of who we are. And it's our family, from my husband to me to what we hope to instill in our children. We've learned and continue to learn along the way how best to seek wholeness over perfection. And that's why we are moving into this realm of unapologetically whole. The rebrand of our podcast beginning January 2026. This is not a goodbye. It's a transition. Not Your Mama's Autism has been our family story told with rich honesty and love. So as we move forward, we invite you into this next chapter, unapologetically whole. It's about thriving. Thank you for walking with us. Now keep walking unapologetically. This podcast has always been about family, community, and finding joy even in the hard places. Thank you for walking with us through Not Your Mama's Autism. Now let's keep on walking into unapologetically whole. We have one more episode after this one, a wonderful conversation with Lisa Hurley, author and self-advocate. See you soon.
As always, thank you for listening to the Not Your Mama's Autism podcast on the Alive Podcast Network. If you like what you hear, please share, subscribe, and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or any other podcast platform you may be listening to this episode on. If you're interested in how this podcast came to be, please check out season 1 of this podcast in its entirety. If you would like to follow us on social media, check us out on Instagram or Facebook at Not Your Mama's Autism. If you're interested in booking me for a speaking engagement for your organization or event, please check out loladadaolly.com. See you soon.
Not Your Mama's Autism podcast is written and produced by my mom, Lola Dada Ollie, and is occasionally produced by me, Bella Ollie. My dad and sister also contribute sometimes. Big thanks to Anna Lee Ackerman for her audio and video editing support. Until next time, everyone, see you soon.